You got your first road course win at Watkins Glen in '93, and then you went on to win three more races to make it four in a row. And you joined at that time. There was only six drivers. You were the sixth one to win four consecutive races. So then Jeff Gordon and then Jimmy Johnson later on went on to join the club. Do you think Tyler Reddick could be the next one that joins?
Boy, I'd say there's an awful good chance of it. They are they're hitting on all cylinders, and I want to revert back again to Bubba Wallace is showing the same kind of speed. Uh, so it's not a fluke. They're strong right now. They're actually putting as faster race cars on the racetrack than the Gibbs bunch is right now. So yes, I give him a good solid chance. When things are clicking, they're clicking. When you've got fast race cars and you've got that momentum, you've got that wind at your back, you've got that tailwind, and it all adds up. It all adds up. And I want to say that I'm really, really happy for Billy Scott. Everybody's talking about Tyler Reddick. Billy Scott's crew chief, one of the finest men, I've known, very much in the same light as Rodney Childers. Um, he was our lead engineer with Rodney at my time at with the 55 car, Michael Waltrip Racing, and I got to work with him there. And as years went on, he graduated, up and now is crew chief. The guy's really smart. He has a really beautiful family, and I feel really warm feelings toward him and his family. And I'm so happy to see um, guys just realize their dreams, as Billy's been being able to do.
Yeah. So, when you went on to win, four races in a row, that to me, there's a lot of periods in your career that I could rank as my favorites, but I'd have to say probably if I was forced to choose, August 8th to September 10th of 1993 is my absolute favorite time of your career. You won four straight cup races and you add in the three Busch wins. I mean, that's seven wins in a row. And I mean, I know, because we've talked about it, you were just riding a high at that time. And, Tyler Reddick and MJ and all those guys there, they have to be feeling the same way. You know, Tell the fans, what was that like? Just every time you got in a race car, you won. And I mean, how did that feel?
You know, it, I was so driven and had blinders on so much. Yeah, it felt good. It felt good to be leading. Felt good to look at the scoreboard, see my number on top. Felt good to be right, pull up into victory lane celebration. But I wasn't soaking it in. I, it actually was bouncing right off of me. I was so focused on how we going to keep. This is what we want. How we going to keep this going? And it was incredible to look back on. Um, it really felt satisfying. I really felt like I was there. Um, in 1988 and 89, I was just barely keeping my job. And then in 90, we had a shot at the championship, but in 91, we didn't win a race until the last race of the season. And, you know, once you pack down four cup races in a row and add in the three Busch races that I ran, seven in a row, you feel like I can probably keep my job. And if I was to happen to lose it, I could probably get another one, and honestly, for the struggle that I went through to get there, for the 10 years that it took to get to those seven wins, from heartbreak and being crushed and broken in half to that, uh, it meant more than most people can. I can't describe it, but it was so much more than just winning those. It was, dude, I think I've arrived. I don't think I have to worry about getting fired again, because I did get fired in 1983 after running what I thought was pretty good for the car that I had. But um, that stuck with me my entire career, because when I got fired, no one would hire me, and I never forgot that all the way to the last race that I drove in 2013. I never forgot that I that there was a point when I couldn't get a job in the NASCAR garage.
Another thing too to think about those 7 wins is, there was 2 weekend sweeps in there, where you won, both NASCAR races. You won the Busch race and the Cup race, the same weekend. So that was, Michigan, and then later at Darlington. And I mean, I was only a year old when that happened, and I wish that I'd been a little older so I could have really soaked that in more. But I want to touch on something you said, Dad. Like you felt like you didn't absorb it as much as you would have liked at that time. But wouldn't you? Don't you think that that's probably a pretty common trait with anybody that reaches a professional level of sports, because they're so driven by results, and when they get that result, they just want to continue that. They don't really soak up the moment. Um, it makes me wonder about Tyler. If maybe is he the same way? You would think that he would, but I would say, just from my personal experience with you, that probably when he's your age, he knows right now is a highlight of his career, but probably when he's your age, he'll really look back on this time, whether he wins his fourth race in a row or not, as one of the biggest highlights of his career.
Yeah, because you have to remember that it's not all over with when you hoist the trophy. I mean, the work's just begun for that race and the next race, both. Then you go to the media center, and then you go, on radio, and you go on TV on Monday, and you have all these things that are coming at you, many of which don't come at you if you don't win. If you run second, you're you're free to start focusing on what's next. But you've got a buckshot kind of focus right after winning, especially now after winning three. I mean, there's all the hoopla and hysteria that's going along with that. So Tyler's got to be saturated with doing his duties to his sponsors, to his team, to NASCAR, and all these things, because when you win like that, that's what's expected of you. You, you know, that's when the payoff for the sponsors, payoff for the team, payoff for NASCAR, for the fans, uh, growing your fan base, all this stuff is your job, and you have a much greater opportunity after winning. And after winning two, you have more, and after winning three, you have even more opportunities. So um, I know that's how it was when I was in it, and so you can imagine, you've got those wins adding up, and you've got those weekend sweeps, and as well, and there's just so much going on in the peripheral vision. Uh, on top of how we going to do this the next race, like if you won the race at Michigan in the Busch race, well, you've got all these responsibilities yet that evening, and you've also got happy hour, the last practice with the Cup car, and what can you take from your experience in the Busch car into the Cup car, and then you line them all up and you do all your stuff on Sunday morning before the race, and then you win the race on Sunday, and you have even more responsibilities. So um, your responsibility level really goes up when you win these races. It's quite a bit more than even if you run second.
Well, speaking of the Michigan weekend, I posted the pictures of you crossing the finish line in '93 from the Bush race and the Cup race, taking the checkered flag. And Vito noticed that the angle, the spoiler, was different on the Cup car, compared to the Bush car. Um, do you recall anything about learning what you need to change for the Cup car after running the Bush race?
I don't remember setup wise, but um, there was a significant horsepower difference between the Bush and Cup cars at that time, and so we didn't we didn't have a 70-degree spoiler on the Bush car. We didn't maximize it because that last 10 degrees you got a lot of drag and only a little downforce. And so I think the spoiler was probably at 60 degrees on the Bush car. It certainly would have been 70 in the Cup car because you had the monster horsepower. Um, so, but I don't really remember crossovers. The one thing about it was you didn't really learn exact science setup stuff from the Bush car to the Cup car, but you raced on the tire, you raced on the track, you saw the trends that the tire gave you, and and the trends of what the track did. So it gave you a little deeper insight into how things might uh, fall and lay out in Sunday's race. So there was more of that trend of how the car balance shifted, those kind of things. The Bush car generally, most of the time, didn't have the same exact springs as a Cup car, but they were relatively close. And we knew, we typically knew Steve and I um, would have a good rough idea of what the crossover would be, from the Bush car setup to what we might want in the Cup car. Um, but the biggest thing, was track, trend, tire wear, tire characteristics, those kind of things.
Well, I just thought of this. If Tyler, Tyler's a short guy like me and you. If Tyler wins his fourth race in a row, maybe they'll bring back a 6'2" beauty queen, to pose with him in victory lane like they did for you when you won your.
God, the only thing we'd be missing was Benny Parsons
Yeah,
talking about it because Benny was absolutely hilarious
yeah.
about talking about, oh Lord, looks like he's going to win this race. And that beauty queen's 6'2". That was so incredible. Such good times.
And she was there for the Bush race and the Cup race.
Yes, she
Yeah,
was.
yeah, it was crazy.